Hey, welcome to Let's Chat, Variants Edition. Let's Chat is our series of talk shows that allow us to discuss previous shows and directly hang out and chat with you, the best audience in gaming. So welcome everybody. As a warning, we will be discussing spoilers from last week's episode of The Variants. So if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, please be aware of what you're getting into. With us, as always, is our trusty Twitch chat box. That's down there, if I got that right. That's going to facilitate our communication, and also we'll do a little something special with us tonight. We have a raffle going on. Yeah, I got it right. We have a raffle going on for about another 45 minutes for a copy of Green Ronin's Mutants and Masterminds Basic Heroes Handbook. For the next 45 minutes, all you need to do to enter to win is type in the chat !Optivert, and then you will be entered. If you want a double chance of making it, then you get 2 points for being a subscriber and entering. So if you want an even bigger chance of winning that prize, then please do me a favor and pound that subscription button. So yeah, that's the cool stuff. There's so much cool stuff that's happening this week, and in particular, I want to say a couple of things. The Variants show that we did last Monday went amazingly well. We had such a great time, and we had such a great audience response. When I threw it up on YouTube, it's already at around 250 views just in the last couple of days. We've got over 100 views so far on the Twitch channel, and of course that's in addition to everybody who watched it live. So we're picking up an incredible amount of steam, and that's all thanks to you guys for supporting us and sharing it and talking us up and all that kind of stuff. So go to YouTube if you want to watch the whole thing again. I don't know if you've already seen it. I don't know why you would want to, other than it's awesome. We also have a podcast version that is sort of out in that it's done, but I had a little bit of a snag today in that YouTube decided, or not YouTube, but Apple decided to reject our podcast for some reason. I'm not sure why. I'm going to get into that and try to figure out why they did. But it's out there right now. Like, it's up. The RSS stream is up. So if you wanted to listen to that, let me know. Also, something really cool happened. I don't know if anybody was paying attention, but Marvel Comics has a subscription service that, like, you pay, I don't even know what it is anymore. I've been subscribed for a while. It's like $7 or $8 or maybe even $10. And then you get to read, like, all of their backlog of comics. Like, I think they update, like, 6 months out. So if you want to read new stuff, you have to pay for it. But, like, you know, once something's been out 6 months, they throw it on the subscription service. And you can read basically anything. Like, so I got caught up, you know, on X-Men. I haven't read X-Men for, you know, since like 2001. And I got caught up last month, and then I went back and caught myself up on Incredible Hulk, and I read all of the Marvel crossovers that I wanted to read. Well, the reason that I had not subscribed to DC's version of this is that they just basically didn't have any comic books. They didn't have anything, you know, resembling Marvel's at all. Yeah, Plateau says it's $10, but DC has all their cool shows, right? And some of them are cool, some of them are just like old shows. But their comics were really weird. They were oddly curated, and you couldn't just go back and read what you wanted to. But this week they announced that they are going to take their entire 80-year catalog of comics and put them up. So I am going to become a new subscriber to that. And it reminded me that there's now like 100 different subscription services to things. It reminded me of the mid-'80s when every different cable channel had their own subscription. You had to pay for HBO, Showtime, or Cinemax, or whatever, each individually. And then somebody came along and bundled them all together. So get ready for some megacorp to come around and bundle all of these subscription services together. But hey, we're not here to talk about that other than to say hallelujah for DC getting their act together. We're here to talk about the Variants the episode that we did this last Monday. I don't really know how to do this. Like, Oz, like, did you just keep talking and just people ask questions or whatever? Because I could sit here and go through the whole episode. Maybe that's a good place to start. Is just kind of recapping what happened when we opened. We had some technical issues at the very beginning, which I think are going to be totally flattened out by this time. This was my first time really using OBS as to stream everything, and so I had a couple of technical glitches. I realized, since it's just you guys, since all 7 of you guys are my audience family, my Optiverts, right? If you're here right now, you are a true Optivert, and so you guys are here at the ground floor of all this. So I'll tell you what I realized when I was listening to the thing that we did last Monday about 40 million times, is that I said about 1 billion times in the last session. So I will make a concerted effort to enunciate, to think before I speak, although it's gonna cost you some of those rare golden Opti moments, so maybe I should not think before I speak. But I make a concerted effort to not say although for a GM, some of you guys know this, for a GM normally, not to mention a GM that's going live on something like this, to a lot of people potentially, not saying is incredibly difficult. So I'm gonna have to just make that my one thing that I focus on, and not try to get too much better about anything on too quickly. Not saying you guys have to keep me honest. Oz says he's long since given up on stopping he can temper it. Yeah. So anyway, for someone who does a lot of public speaking already, I should know better than to say but normally it's not nearly as improvisational. So I've actually also, and maybe this is just because I get into stuff way too much for my own good, but I've actually thought about taking some improv classes here where I live, and just improving my craft. Yeah. Is that a thing that people do, take improv classes to become better game masters or storytellers? Maybe it is. Maybe that's like a tips and tricks for GMs that people don't talk about, but I'm gonna maybe do that. So on last week's episode of the Variants, we encountered Bootleg. And Bootleg is thank you, Streamlabs, for reminding us about the giveaway. Oz says it was good for him in college. Yeah, well, you know what? That makes sense. That makes sense that you did that, because you're really good at the improv stuff. So the Variants opened up. I should say this one thing. One more thing before I move on. One of the things that we're also going to change from, Bob says he became a GM to get better at improv. One of the things that we're going to change from last week, probably the biggest change to the actual stream, is that when somebody gave a subscription, or when somebody gave some bits or cheers and stuff like that, I stopped kind of the action of the game to address that and to give thanks to the person who donated or subscribed. I think listening back and going back over, I think we're going to stop that. I think we're going to have a dedicated person, one of the players, maybe Cassie, is going to pay attention to who is giving what, and make a note of that. And then we're going to have certain times, maybe before or after breaks, where we say thank you to those people, because I think it was cooler to not break the immersion, to not break the dialogue, and to keep going with that, and not to interrupt people just because somebody was subscribing. Although we totally really want people to subscribe, I just think that the nature of this, what we're doing here, is probably better in terms of storytelling to reserve those for a particular time. So, yes, I don't know. Oz says he digs that. Also, the Shadowcasters Network says they dig that. Also, we're all the same person. You've never seen us at the same place at the same time. Okay, so back to the recap. Bootleg, who is this mutant? Not mutant. I shouldn't say mutant. This genetic anomaly who can take other people's powers and amp other people's powers away and absorb other people's abilities. He finds himself floating in an ocean. He doesn't know how he got there. The last thing he remembers, he was sent on a mission from the headmaster at the Graystone Academy for the Prodigious to find another mutant, him and his team, the Variants. And the next thing he knows, he is kidnapped and put in a cell briefly. And then next thing he knows, he's floating in the ocean. One of the things that Bootleg never asked, and I don't think he's watching this, so you can nobody tell him. But one of the things he never asked once he got rescued from floating is how he got there, right? If everyone's kidnapped and everybody is taken to the island, which we realize by the end of the episode that they're all on this island, how did he escape? He never asked that question. He never thought about it. It never came up again. But maybe it'll come up. I don't know if it'll come up or not. But there is a reason that Bootleg alone escaped, and it might not be the reason that he or you think it is. Anyway, he was found floating by Taro, who is their initial interaction should let you know that Taro and Bootleg have somewhat of a history. Bootleg, obviously being the sort of leader of the Variants, had encountered Taro before, and Taro is sort of a part-time bad guy, part-time whatever. He just does... Yes, exactly. Oh, no! Oh, Riopel is here. So Thomas is here, so now he can tell Rusty. Keep it quiet. Keep it quiet, Riopel. Just don't tell him. Let him ask that question if he wants to, or let it remain a secret. Anyway, so Taro has obviously tangled with Bootleg and the Variants in the past, so Bootleg doesn't want anything to do with him. And one of the things that, if you're running a game, maybe this will help you in the future. If you're running a superhero game, people who can see the future are really problematic. Like, that power is incredibly difficult to play well. So I don't know if you noticed, we had this delicate back and forth, Taro and I, between I'm giving him hints, and then he's also kind of asking for hints. Like, he's saying, what do I see in the future? And if I haven't prepared something, right, if he's just asking for something and I don't have anything to give him, or if I've prepared some sort of secret, I mean, at any time, he could just ask for what the future holds. And it's not just what is the future, but like what possible futures there are. So his particular power is, it's incredibly difficult to game master. And so having someone like Kevin who's not abusing it all the time is really important. And I trusted Kevin enough to be able to play this power. Plus, Kevin is not going to be a long-term cast member on the Variants. He was meant to only be in this show, the first show, and then he was going to transition out. But the episode lasted longer than I thought it would, so he was going to come back for next week's episode and be around a little bit longer. Yes, exactly. Thomas knows Riopel knows how to keep secrets. I keep using your real name. I don't know how online etiquette works, but so Taro and Bootleg, Taro who can see the future, and Bootleg who's got kind of vaguely rogue-like powers. They find their way back to the Graystone Academy for the Prodigious. Yes, exactly, Bob. For our Optiverse background, Bob Volbrecht, by the way, is one of the people who is involved deeply in the world building that went into the Optiverse, and he's also going to be playing with me as a PC in our next Optiverse game, which is the Justicars, which premieres in May. I'm obviously excited for that one because I get to play, and my character and Bob's characters look really, really cool. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a great time with that. If this excites you at all, Mr. Johnson, Cliff from the Arcology podcast, Prism Shard, who does our music. Oh, you know what? Lang's gonna be there as well. I told him this to. I think Plateau of Lang's character is going to be the breakout star of the Justicars. Because I don't want to give away his character concept, but it is pretty freaking amazing. But we have Mr. Johnson, Cliff Prison Shard from the Arcology podcast, who's being our GM. And Cliff is a great GM. He has been busting his hump trying to learn the system, and anything he touches as far as game mastering is gold. So I'm pretty excited to have him play. So they make it back to Bootleg and Taro, make it back to the Graystone Academy for the Prodigious. They explain the situation, that the other variants are gone, and a headmaster says, well, you can go looking for some more genetic anomalies to help you, or Taro can go with you, and you can kind of save yourself the trip. They look at this map, they see that there's 5 genetic anomalies out there that are kind of ripe, I guess, for recruitment. But there's problems with 3 of them. So one of them, named Indigo St. John, is basically missing from his tribe in Seattle. One of them, the one that the original variants were sent out the mission to get when they were kidnapped, is down in El Salvador, and that would be too much of a trip to... it would take too long to get down there. There's one that was just an hour south of the Graystone Academy down in Proudhaven, but the headmaster says that every time he contacts her, she hangs up on him when he mentions the school. How rude. Doesn't she know how prestigious the school is? And then you have these other 2. One is in Pleasanton, near San Francisco, and the other one is in Indianapolis. Minneapolis, sorry. Minnesota. So they head out to Minneapolis, and again, this is where Taro's power became a little bit problematic. It's that he says, which one should we go to? What has the better future? So it's like, this one. He goes and they have this chat with Takedown's family, which was kind of nice. I enjoyed kind of a quiet moment of recruitment, and her family's all very supportive of her, joining up with the team. Her dad apparently has been waiting for something like this. They believe it's the will of Allah to use her powers for the greater good, and because it's going to save lives, they're committed to it. So they get Takedown on a plane. They fly out to Pleasanton, which is near San Francisco, and again, this is where Taro's power got really weird, and he's like, how does this go down? What's the best scenario? And so I don't know how to explain how this happened, but the idea was that Guixin has these powers, and he's going to blast somebody. So I told Taro, well, you see this going this way. Well, that sort of thing kind of weirdly can take away another player's agency. And that's kind of one of the things you don't want to do as a game master. So by me saying this is how this is going to go down, I had to pre-narrate how an interaction between 2 PCs is going to go. And since I'm not controlling either one of them, that scene got, I think, a little bit, a little extended and a little weird, because Taro and Takedown and Bootleg and even Guixin knew that, according to Taro, it was going to end explosively. And so I think that Bootleg was kind of like, okay, well, I'm prepared for this to end explosively. Takedown is like, well, if this is going to end explosively, I'm just going to stay back here and like whatever. And Taro's like, I know what's going to happen, but like the character Taro knew it was going to happen, but Kevin didn't necessarily know it was going to happen. And Guixin, of course, is now like, well, I guess I have to blast him because that's what Taro saw in the future. So it was a weird sort of interaction, but and I think it ended up making Bootleg look really like pushy and really kind of a jerk. And Bootleg's character is not that. Like, Bootleg's character is a character that is very sympathetic to genetic anomalies, who spent his whole life working for the safety of genetic anomalies. And so when Bootleg is forced to say, like, okay, I know this is how this ends. I need to get the show on the road in order to save all the other genetic anomalies. I need to force Guixin to attack me. He just came across looking really, well, kind of like a jerk. And that's kind of a weird place for Bootleg to be. I don't think that was his intention at all. but that's kind of how it came out. I expect that bootleg will be a little bit different moving forward. Just to remind everybody that we have a raffle going on. If you want to type in the chat !Optivert, then you will be entered, and we'll give away a Mutants and Masterminds Basic Hero Handbook in about, I don't know, 25 minutes. So if that's something you're interested in, just type !Optivert, and then we will give away that in not too long. After this, Guishin obviously attacks bootleg, and he misses. He rolled a 1. I said I gave you 95% chance of attacking bootleg and a 5% chance of destroying the rental car, and he rolls a 1, destroys the rental car, which hopefully we'll deal with in a future episode with the rental car people calling up Guishin like, hey, you owe us money. But he goes with them to save lives, and we cut to them going down to Florida, and they rent a plane, like a biplane, like a propeller plane, and they head out towards the Bermuda Triangle. Lots of questions here that they didn't ask, right? Like, whoa, Bermuda Triangle, like, who's gonna put something there? But they head down there. They don't see anything, and this is where bootleg's powers for a GM are a little problematic, in that he can just kind of sense, genetic anomalies everywhere. And it kind of takes a little bit of the surprise out of it sometimes. So I may have to introduce something in a future episode, particularly, like, what would you do as a villain if one particular superhero kept discovering you or kept stealing your powers, right? So I think one of the things I'm going to do long term is introduce some villain that will counter bootleg's power, or have the ability to counter bootleg's power. A little bit like Magneto has that helmet that can counter Professor X's powers, because he just knows Professor X is a mutant that he'll be coming up against a lot. I know that some of these characters will know that they will be coming up against bootleg's genetic anomaly power. Yes, exactly, Bob. So I think eventually, I'm going to let bootleg have his way with a couple of these villains, steal their powers and do all that kind of stuff. I can't obviously tell what he's going to do, but I think I'm going to let him have his fun, and then down the road, I'm going to introduce these characters were like, hey, who was selling this on the black market? Like this Tinker guy, like Mr. Tinker Pants was selling these to genetic anomalies so that you couldn't steal their powers anymore. Haha. So that might be a kind of a fun thing where, like, they got to track down Mr. Tinker because he's making weapons and helping the bad guys. So anyway, they get to this area around the Bermuda Triangle where where the vibes that bootleg was feeling were coming from, and they actually end up bumping up against something hard, which is actually a force field over this island, hiding it from view. They bump up against it, and the plane starts going down. Everybody is saved, because they were. Their powers combined, and they were able to make it through the plane crash. Which brings up another thing, like, how are they going to get off the island, right? They told Silhouette when they met Silhouette, like, hey, you can help us get off the island, or we can help you get off the island. But they don't really have a plan for getting back off the island. So that's going to be a kind of a fun thing for them to kind of figure. Taro had this interesting vision where he said, if we go to the east, we're going to encounter huge rat-like creatures. If they would have went that direction, that would have been pretty fun, because this island has apparently been off the evolutionary chart, separated from a lot of the other world places, and the evolution has diverged there, and so they have a lot of different different fauna. If they stay where they were going to get killed by I think it was a race of aquatic apes, And so that was they all gave me a look like, wait, what did you say? Aquatic apes? So they had a 50% chance of going different direction and meeting somebody who was going to help them. And the person that they met was Silhouette. Now, this was, again, one of those things where you can't always plan what's going to happen. Silhouette's powers are very scary. Like, he has this shadow power that kind of just reaches out everywhere, and these chittering teeth and claws and eyes just sort of appear out of his shadow and grope and grasp at you. And it's meant to be a really intense experience. Well, of course, Taro already knows what's going to happen, so he's not scared. Bootleg kind of already is getting a feeling for his powers, so he's not scared. So I tried to play up the intense fear for the other two, for Takedown and Guishin, but they have both taken the fearless power. And so it's... I suppose if I would have read their character sheets a little bit better, I would have known that, but it ended up being just kind of like a wah-wah, where Silhouette is just trying his best to scare these people away, and they're all just looking at him like, listen, we're not scared. You know, we just need to get into this facility. So they make this deal. Silhouette joins them, and Silhouette's been using his powers for a very long time, probably as long as Bootleg. The other two, Guishin and Takedown, have not been using their powers for very long, or at least they don't know a lot about their powers. And so you've got three more or less power veterans, and then Takedown and Guishin are kind of tagging along just to see what they can do. Almost afraid at this point that they're going to hurt people by using their powers. So they get into this place. One of the things, again, that they didn't really ask about or talk about is why this place is there. They didn't ask about the ancient writing that was on the entrance. They just kind of glossed past it. And it's easy to do that when you have a mission, when your mission is to get in and save your friends, right? There's a sense of urgency. And so I think Bootleg is kind of driving everybody. But there's all these like indicators that this is not exactly what they think it is. But they didn't pick up on any of those threads, so I get to continue being mysterious with it. They get in, and I expected them to start looking around and maybe just take random hallways and try to figure stuff out. But actually, no, they went right for a control center, right? They snuck in, grabbed the janitor, whose name was Cliff, and who became apparently a breakout star of the episode. We had people clamoring like, more Cliff, bring Cliff back for another episode, have him working at another supervillain lair in some episode in the future. So if we get enough support for Cliff, maybe we'll bring Cliff back. But Cliff knew enough to help them get where they wanted to go, and so they eventually, again, did something that I wasn't particularly expecting. They wanted to find out where all of the genetic anomalies were being held. They found out that there was more genetic anomalies there than just the original variants. There was the original variants, which is 4, plus one person that Bootleg recognized, Quintessa, whoever that is. And there were 3 other genetic anomalies that were there. Bootleg, of course, because he's, he acts on behalf of all genetic anomalies, wants to release them. Hopefully, none of their powers are going to be deadly to everyone on the island. But he wants to release them, and then kind of work together to get off the island. They want to shut down all the robots that they've seen walking around. Oh, hey, thanks, Trav. I appreciate the raid. We are talking about the Variants show that we did last week. And for those of you who are just joining us, we have a raffle going on. If you type !Optivert, then you are entered to win a Mutants and Masterminds Basic Hero Handbook PDF, which I will send you right after our show. So that ends in about 15 minutes. So if you just type !Optivert, then we will get that out to you when the raffle ends. So yeah, they go in there and they find the control center, which is really easy to get into. I had all these battles planned out, but Silhouette's power is to move through shadow, so everybody just kind of hops in his shadow, a little bit like like Cloak from Cloak and Dagger, and they end up in the control server room. They hack in because Bootleg is absorbing all of the information and all the kind of passive powers from the scientists, so he knows exactly what to do. He goes in there and finds 3 bits of information. He finds the locations of all the anomalies and who they are. He finds a way to shut down the containment or open up the containment, and also a little bit of information that this is not the only island that they are looking at, whoever these mysterious people are, that this is a staging area for maybe scientific research or archaeology into looking at other odd places like this in their Bermuda Triangle. So again, they didn't pick up on that. Yes, exactly. I'll type BAM and then Optivert so that you know. Yeah, just like that. Not an introvert or an extrovert, but an Optivert. You gain energy from listening to Optiverse information. That's what I think I'm calling the fans. I'm calling them Optiverts. Anyway, so they get that information. They shut down the containment units. They had like little chips in their neck that was controlling or shutting down their powers. So he turns them off. Their powers come back on. He lets them out of their cages, and then immediately they hear this boom. Something's happened, and the red klaxons start going off, and now everybody knows they're there, and they start seeing floods of these soulbots that are rushing their position, and that's where we ended. They are kind of being attacked by the soulbots. So yeah, that's kind of where we end. Hey, Palmer, you received 3 tickets. There you go. And we should see more people getting more tickets. There you go. If you are a subscriber, then you'll get triple the amount of tickets. So there you go. If you want an extra chance of doing that. So yeah, what questions do you have? We ended the stream there when they let go of when they turned everything off and the soulbots were attacking them. That's where we ended the last stream. So what questions do you guys have, or what do you want to talk about now that we've done our due diligence with the rundown from the last episode? Yeah, taking a drink takes a lot of time. If I win, please repick. Okay, all right, we'll do. I will say this: I have I try to do a lot of diversity with the casting of these shows. I don't want it to be just a bunch of dudes, and I don't want it to be just a bunch of white folk, and I don't want it to be just a bunch of straight people. I'm trying to there's a lot of people out there in the world. There's a lot of different kind of people. So I want our shows to reflect that, especially in an aspirational and inspirational world like the Optiverse, where anything is possible and the good guys always win, ideally. I want to reflect that this world, the Optiverse, is like our world, except at every major point we might have done things better, right? So at the opportunities that we had to create equality, maybe the Optiverse did it right, and maybe people of color have more opportunity here in the Optiverse. At every opportunity where we said, are we going to hate gay people, or are we going to embrace gay people? I feel like the Optiverse would have gone that direction of embrace, and I feel like once women said, we want to have equality, I feel like the Optiverse would have said, you know what, yeah, we agree with you, and just people would just be a little bit more elevated in their mind, again, a little bit more like the way the world should be than what it is, and maybe make the bad guys the bad guys. I know we don't live in that world. I know that things are way more gray than that, and I know that probably storytelling is probably a little bit more interesting when you have less black and white and a little bit more gray. But I had a few things that I wanted to do with the Optiverse, and that was one of them. Just essentially represent diversity in a way that, like, if we're gonna have bad stuff in this system, I want it to not be that, because I want people who are diverse to be able to find someone like them in the Optiverse to just exist, to be okay with who they are, and to have a hero that represents them. So all that to say, big, long train to say that we have an opening in one of our shows that's going to start in a couple months, maybe 4 months. So if there's anyone who wants to be on a show, particularly a lady, if you want to be on a show, because that show's a little bit of a sausage fest at the moment. If you want to be on a show, that one's going to be in space. So it's going to be like Guardians of the Galaxy type show. If you have an interest in being in that show, please let me know. That'd be kind of fun. Oh no, spell guac on the keyboard. I just saw no and oh no, and I thought, here I am giving this very long impassioned monologue about how we want to be better, and people are going, no, oh no. I was like, oh man, these tough crowd. But apparently it was because somebody spilled guacamole on their keyboard. Sorry about that, Lang. That sucks. Anyway, so yeah, what do you guys want to talk about? In addition to the Optiverse stuff, I got some other stuff going on as well. I do freelance writing for Catalyst, so I do some Shadowrun writing, which is kind of how I kind of have been nerding it up for the last couple years. I also do a podcast about Shadowrun, and Shadowrun is essentially why I'm doing the Optiverse, because I don't know how many of you have noticed, but Shadowrun is getting a little bit less fun as the world actually becomes more or less like Shadowrun. Like, Shadowrun, the world, is great, and it's interesting to read about and to play, but it's not really that fun to live in the world of Shadowrun. And so I felt like I could keep doing this Shadowrun stuff, and that's fine, but I also, for my own sanity, would love to play in a world that is better than ours for a change, instead of playing in Shadowrun and writing for Shadowrun, which just felt like, hey, here I'm writing this Shadowrun fiction. This is more or less like a handbook for what the world is going to become. Like, here, read this stuff if you want to know how to screw the world up. So, yeah, Bob, I hear you. Right, yeah, megacorps are like not even fiction anymore. They're like absolutely a thing, except they're like so not, they're more insidious, right? Because you don't realize it's happening. Like, all these companies are doing this thing, like, hey, Facebook's like, hey, we're gonna sell all your information, and you're like, yeah, it's fine, as long as I can sign into my account with only one click. We're like, that's fine. All this facial recognition technology, and we're like, cool, as long as I can have VR sex, it's fine. We're totally selling our soul, like, on purpose. They're not stealing it from us. We're just signing it off on the dotted line. So yeah, it's kind of crappy. Palmer asks, can I reveal any secrets about the island they're on that might not come up otherwise? I'll only hint that the island is a sort of Easter egg, or a sort of foreshadowing for something that might come up along down the road. Like I said, the computer that Bootleg logged into seemed to indicate that this was just a sort of beachhead, just a sort of fort along the way as they, whoever this organization is that owns and is operating these armies. And I will say this: if they would have dug the island itself is called the Soul Forge, and the Soul Forge is a place where they were doing experiments on these genetic anomalies. For what reason, we don't know yet. But the Soul Forge is managed by a particular group or individual, and they have these soul bots, right? SOL Forge and SOL bots that are patrolling the island and that kind of thing. So there's a little bit of stuff, but this is just basically the tip of the iceberg for this storyline. And whether or not the variants pursue that or not, or maybe even one of the other Optiverse shows might pursue that as well, just know that in the very first episode, there were the hints of something much, much greater going on at the Soulforge Island. Whether or not the Soulforge is going to remain, who knows? Because you've got a lot of genetic anomalies that are upset that they were imprisoned, and the imprisoned genetic anomalies are quite powerful, as you will see in the beginning of next episode. One of the cool things I liked about the last episode is at the very end, Bootleg sees the Soulbots coming up towards them. I mean, just hordes and hordes of Soulbots, and he turns to Guishin and Takedown, and he says basically, you know, cut loose, you know, have fun. These aren't people. You can use your powers to the fullest here, and no one's gonna get hurt. So I'm pretty excited to cut back to episode 2 in media res and see Guishin and Takedown just absolutely annihilating scores of robots, because that's kind of what I expect them to do. Of course, they could just surprise me and then like lay down and take a nap and force Bootleg and Taro to fight out, because Bootleg and Taro, without the benefit of other anomalies, Bootleg and Taro actually are not very combat heavy, so things could go pretty bad. Oh yeah, and Silhouette is like, yeah, I wanna flex my shadow magic. So yeah, that's gonna be cool. Yes, and Bob, why is this island in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle? Like, what's going on there, and how does the Bermuda Triangle and all the mythology surrounding that play into this this sort of storyline with the Soulforge and blah 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 blah? So yeah, I agree. I'm having a good time. So let's do this. Let's close up our entries for the. Oh well, we'll stop there. Leng is asking, can Bootleg manipulate any power or just anomalies? No, actually, his power is limited to just genetic anomalies. So if he comes up against somebody else with powers, whatever powers they might be, if they are not particularly genetic anomalies, he cannot sense them, and he cannot copy or suck away their powers. He does have a power that allows him to sort of passively absorb skills and traits, but not powers. So like if he's hanging around a bunch of scientists, you know, over 15 minutes or so, he can absorb some of their skills, but not their powers. So good question. All right, let's end the raffle, and we'll see who wins. You can no longer enter the raffle. Well, it's not letting me pick a winner. Hold on. Man, I can tell you, running these things is hard. Like, you never know what you're doing. Simple. We experiment. Alright, close entries. I just closed the entries. I don't know why it's not letting me close it. Hold on. We're just going to work through this together. It says it's going to be closed in 4 seconds anyway, so hopefully it'll be easy. There you go. Oh, now it's counting back. Ah, what the heck? Come on, dudes. Make this happen. There we go. Let's pick a winner. Who wins? Pyrocat Happy Spitfire is the winner. You have won a Mutants and Masterminds Basic Hero Handbook. Woohoo! So if you want to just PM me right now as we're ending the stream, I will get you what you need to do that. Hopefully we've won some goodwill. Now I know that the uptick in people in the chat is people who are here for Join the Anarchy, and that's okay. Join the Anarchy is great, and we love it. So there's a reason why Oz and I chose to stagger our Let's Chats between our shows. And that's because we love each other's shows. We are intimately and madly in love with each other's shows. So I'm glad you guys are here. I'm grateful to share whatever audience with Join the Anarchy as I can. All right, let me see. What else you guys want to talk about? I think we've got maybe 3 minutes before I'm going to bail out and let Oz have his stuff. All right, let me see here. I don't know how this I'm messing around with this new kind of like giveaway bot thing. Yes. Opti and Oz is one true ship. Number one, I don't think I'm his type. And on another hand, he's not quite my type either. Although if I had a dude type, Oz would be my type. But I don't think he's into bears, so I don't think we'd be compatible. Although, again, I could be wrong. Maybe it would be the best thing ever. Let me see. I'm trying to do this giveaway stuff. Anyway, Pyrocat, just hit me up however you want to. I don't know how to clip stuff, Oz. I'm sorry. I didn't even know you were listening. Now I'm embarrassed. I think I'm like out of stuff to talk about. I got like 2 minutes left, and I'm just gonna drink blackjacks here while you guys watch me drink blackjacks. I will say this: I've been paying attention this last year to, please, Pyrocat, just DM me and then I'll respond back with what you need to get that PDF. I've been paying attention to various RPG companies absolutely shit in the bed with how they're treating people, how they're treating the LGBT community, how they're treating women, how they're dealing with what we call broken stairs or people in the community that are garbage that they allow to stay for various reasons. And it's making me... I don't even understand what you just said, Sway Mage. I'm so sorry. I need more Pusser's Navy rum. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Sorry, it was like Pusser's Navy. What the hell is that? But it's rum. Okay, so, yeah, I know. You know what? Okay, so I'm just going to jabber my mouth off. I wanted beer, and I went to the fridge, and there was no beer, and I found my wife's Blackjack Colas, which are Jack and Coke, and I'm not a fan of Jack or Coke, but when you want something to drink, you want something to drink. So I had one, and I'm like, okay, fine, just sit there. So, yeah, I would have gladly accepted nearly anything else, but you take what you can get. So yeah, anyway, back to what I was saying. I've been so disappointed with our industry as a whole. Green Ronin, by the way, I will say this: Green Ronin has transcended all of those folks, and they have been doing a great job of being above all of that crap. They are super inclusive. They've been super great to us. I know a couple of the folk over there, James Gates and Steve Kenson, who are just freaking great people. And they are running their company and making their products great. Not only the products they're making are great, but their social media is great, and the way that they handle stuff is great, and they're not crapping on people with anything they say or anything they do or anything they write. So I've been really grateful to Green Ronin and Mutants and Masterminds for being a great company in the midst of all this. But it's also made me want to maybe explore creating my own, or maybe with the Shadowcasters. I haven't talked to them about this, so you're getting some woohoo. Just maybe doing something ourselves, or myself, depending. And it would be more like, instead of the way that most industry most role-playing game industry treats their freelancers. You know, I'd like to do something a little bit more socialist. Yes, socialist. In that everybody has a part in it. Everybody who participated in it has an ownership of it, not only in the production but also the distribution. Yes, like for real socialist. And getting everybody together to create something better in a community, and to just try to put into practice all the things that I wish big companies did, but they don't. So yeah, I've been wondering what that would look like. I've been wondering what it would look like to like kickstart not only a product, but what would it look like to kickstart a company, and to have lots of different people who believed in it all involved from the beginning, and what that would look like. And just try to do something different, because everybody else in the field seems to be just absolutely crapping the bed as far as inclusion and exclusion and being better and gatekeeping, and it's just making me so sick that I can't stand it, and I want to do something about it. So yes, exactly, like a neo-anarchist tabletop role-playing game. Like that's more or less exactly it. And I've been inspired recently to check out, like we did the damn it, what was that show that we did? Misspent Youth. And I was like, dude, you have no idea how amped I was about that game, because it was just hitting all the right spots for me. So Robert Bowl, the creator, and I have now followed each other. We go back and forth sometimes, and I really appreciate him and everything that he put into that. And I want to do that, but I don't want it to be like, hey, we're the neo-anarchist guys, listen to our neo-anarchist thing, and here's our anarchist game, and here's all of our anarchist characters. Like, it's possible to have anarchism baked in to other genres, right? So you can have, like, what if you had a space game that was also an anarchist game? You know, not like, hey, we're the space anarchist game, but like just these characters that had, like, you know, anarchist stuff. A little bit like like Firefly, right? Those are all like relatively anarchist characters fighting the man, but in their own particular way. So yeah, I just he has an as yet undiagnosed STD. Nick Morgan, there you go, man. Good for you. We're talking about your STD now, man. We were talking about maybe creating a company, an RPG company that is more inclusive than exclusive, because of the general state of the industry being crappy to a lot of its players, and maybe we could do better by kind of baking it into the system. But anyway, that's probably enough for now. I'm gonna let go and let Oz get in here. Congratulations to Pyrocat for winning our raffle, and thanks for being here, guys. I would love to see you when we return with our second episode of The Variants, which is going to be next week at the same time as Join the Anarchy. So basically next week at this exact time, plus 5 minutes. So I'd love to see you all there. Thanks for being here, and it's been lovely, and I'd look forward to having another Let's Chat with you in 2 weeks. In the meantime, peace out, everybody, and make your life amazing by making someone else's life amazing. That was super cheesy, and I'm going to stop recording.